This presentation of the Savage Nation is brought to you by Inheritance Funding Company.
With Michael Savage, I can relate.
The Savage Nation. Weekday afternoons 3 to 7. Talk 910. KNEW. Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
What we hear about is Michael Jackson, and let's knock out the psychopath. This guy was a pervert, and to be giving this much coverage to him day in and day out, what does it say about us as our country? No one wants to stand up and say, we don't need Michael Jackson. The media has disgraced itself. There's nothing good about this guy. What are we glorifying him for? The men and women of the armed forces, police, firefighters, they're the ones we should be glorifying, not some pervert like Michael Jackson. Would you let your child or grandchild be in the same room with Michael Jackson?
Well, not in the mortuary, that's for sure. That's Representative Peter King, Republican, New York, calling Michael Jackson a pedophile and a pervert. We do not know if he will be banned in Britain, but we're holding our breath to find out who will be banned next. This is the prologue to the Savage Nation, the post-July 4th program. The phone number, as usual, 1-800-449-8255. The website is michaelsavage.com. I almost said michaeljackson.com. It's gotten into my head. Sorry. It is michaelsavage.com. Our president is on another trip. He has solved all of the problems in America, as you know, so therefore he is now over in Russia, and he's made an agreement to cut 1/3 of America's nuclear arsenal. That is so good. That is so great to see that we have a pacifist socialist in the presidency who will soon in his own mind be president of the world and then the universe. We have Senator Al Frankenstein going to Washington from a comedy club to the comedy club, the idiot comedian, Senator Al Frankenstein. You can say Michael Savage said it first. Now, over July 4th weekend, I read a biography of a real American, a true American, not a minstrel, not a newsman, not a comedian, but a real, wonderful, great American. And I'm going to read you a prologue to the man's biography, and I'm going to ask you if you know who he is. Here it is. He never fit the image of the American dashing soldier, handsome and suave. Instead, he was dark, brooding, and forbidding. He rarely smiled. He spoke even less. And when he did, his few words seemed to come out in a snarl. Women seated next to him at dinner said he could sit through the entire meal and not utter a single syllable. Surly, tactless, and with a lifeless, moist cigar constantly locked between his teeth, he was the prototype of the brutal, inhuman militarist. Most people found him frightening. For the first person who guesses who I have just described, a free copy of Psychological Nudity and or Healing Children Naturally will go out to you. I am talking about a very famous American who we should celebrate today because he was the man who, amongst others in World War II, distinguished himself. And there were many distinguished men in World War II, yet he was one of the greatest of all national heroes. Soon after World War II, scathingly destroyed by the vermin in the media, particularly the left-wing scum sucking. Well, let's stop using scum-sucking pig. That's too high for I.F. Stone. I.F. Stone, lauded by the radical left, was closer to a coelenterate than any human being. If you read a book in college called Animals Without Backbones, you'll know what a coelenterate is. It is actually one of the lower classes of animals without backbones. But this liberal piece of coelenterate tissue, I.F. Stone, called this great American caveman and a jet bomber. And he was the man who was parodied as the Mad General in Dr. Strangelove. They said he wanted a nuclear exchange with the Soviets. No, he was a real American. He was a real great American, unlike the wonderful PR men we have now in the military. I could not believe what I'm reading every day. North Korea fires 6 more weapons, and the PR man, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, does nothing but go out for another cocktail with the politicians. Let's start the show rolling here on the Savage Nation. The phone number is 1-800-449-8255. And in a station dear to my heart, WFTL in Fort Lauderdale. David, welcome to the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Dr. Savage. I think it's a disgrace that Obama is cutting 1/3 of our nukes. And I'd like to also add, does anyone actually...
Well, wait, you mean it's a disgrace because he's not cutting half of them, 3/4 of them, or all of them?
No, he shouldn't cut any of our nuclear arsenal. Because...
Well, but you see, Obama's a college professor who believes we should live in a world without nukes. And since he released prisoners from Guantanamo, you know that at least one of them is now leading the men killing our men in Afghanistan. Are you aware of that?
I'm not surprised.
Oh, it didn't make it to your local Miami Herald, did it? The Miami Herald didn't report that one of the men released from Gitmo is now a commander in Afghanistan, leading the radical Islamists in killing our Marines in southern Afghanistan. That didn't make it to the L.A. Times, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, L.A. Times, whatever? All aboard?
I guess not. Not from what I've read.
Thanks, David. We have a winner. We have a winner on line 6. Bill out of New York, WOR. No further calls on who it was. Who was I describing in that book?
That'd be the late, great General Curtis LeMay.
Bingo! Play a sound for that one, guys. Get something professional that shows we got a winner. That's good. We got a winner. Bill, would you prefer a copy of Reducing the Risk of Alzheimer's? Oh, we don't have that. Healing Children Naturally or Psychological Nudity?
I'll go with Psychological Nudity.
Bingo! You get a free copy of Psychological Nudity, which I'm going to reprint because we're out of them again. No bookstores, no distributors, no promotion, no television shows, no radio shows. Back to about the 4th printing. Just shows you what my audience can be. Now, I want to go back to the wonderful book, LeMay, The Life and Wars of General Curtis LeMay, Warren Kozak. Here's a man who started out in a very poor farm in Ohio, had to take control of help his family out when he was 8 years old. He had no connections in the military, unlike the military of today, where you get ahead if you know somebody. The man began with nothing. He rose from obscurity. He had no social graces. He had no old boy connections, never went to West Point, bad lineage, and he became America's most innovative and controversial military commander. Curtis LeMay was a national hero. He was celebrated in victory parades and on the cover of Time magazine in 1945. But 20 years later, after the radical left scum took over the media, Hollywood and the vermin in the press vilified him. In fact, the low-life Salenter at I.F. Stone, the hero of Obama and the leftists, called him the caveman in a jet bomber. And yet he was the man who understood what war was. He was the man who started by flying bi-wing open cockpit planes in the 20s, and he wound up commanding America's post-war fleet of giant B-52 bombers, and he ended his career in an age of intercontinental nuclear missiles. I want to tell you something else I read about him. Here was a man who, unlike the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff or the admirals or the generals of today, led his men into combat by flying point in every bombing mission. He insisted on flying the lead airplane into flak. The men followed him. You understand what I'm saying to you? Do you know, look what happened to America now. We have PR men running everything, and that's why we are not winning anything. We have nothing but fakers in usher uniforms. But LeMay was the man. LeMay was the man who helped turn the bombing effort over Europe from an ineffective and costly failure into a success. LeMay was the architect behind the firebombing of Tokyo and 64 other Japanese cities. Now you say, that's terrible. He killed innocent Japanese. Well, it is terrible. But you see, those of you who hate Americans don't understand that if LeMay had not ordered the deaths of these civilians, over 1 million Americans would have died taking the Japanese homeland. That's an established fact that everybody in the war business has acknowledged, left, right, and center. No one else comes close to this man, not Ulysses S. Grant, not William Sherman, not George S. Patton, in terms of the number of civilians that were killed under his direct command, over 300,000, perhaps as 500,000. And why did that happen? Was he a bloodthirsty warmonger who hated humanity? According to his biography, he said no. The biographer said no. In the strange calculus of war, by killing so many human beings, LeMay saved millions more by making an invasion of Japan unnecessary. He said most people would not want to make that kind of decision, killing vast numbers of human beings in order to save even more. It requires someone with a ruthless sense of realism, and if anything, Curtis LeMay was a realist. That's what the biographer says. Now, I want you to hear something I read that really struck me at stake. He said, "I'll tell you what war is about," he once told Sam Cohen, the inventor of the neutron bomb. And I want to make a side note. I had the distinct honor and pleasure of interviewing Sam Cohen when I was a local talk show host, and we still have it somewhere in a recording. I've got to find it again. He told Sam Cohen, the inventor of the neutron bomb, the following. "I'll tell you what war is about," he told Mr. Cohen.